Hello Awakeners, my name is Marlene and I'm with Soulful Expressions, and today I'm wondering if you have felt this feeling that there has to be something more to life. If life's not making sense to you and you're starting to get curious and searching for a better understanding, perhaps a purpose and meaning in life. So today we're going to talk about the 7 stages of a spiritual awakening. To begin, I want to talk about very briefly the prelude to the 7 stages of a spiritual awakening, and that is whatever is going to trigger your spiritual awakening. I think most recently COVID triggered people's awakening, but there can also be a death in the family. You could be diagnosed with an illness. You could have experienced too many disappointments in life. You could have had a psychedelic experience or had an experience via meditation or even through intercourse. Something could have triggered your awakening. So stage 1 is feeling the call. You feel a call that something's not right with the world. You're searching for purpose, meaning. You're searching for something more. You don't even know what it is. You just know things aren't right, and you're looking for some ground. You're looking for some understanding. And this is the beginning of your rabbit hole adventure. Anyone on this journey will know about the experiences of the highs and the lows, and uncovering truths about the world that you took for granted as truth, and finding out they are not real, and how it can shake up your life. It is a roller coaster ride. So stage 1 is hearing the call. As I said, it's your first sense that there's something more and you're looking for purpose. I just want to say, when I was a little girl, I remember riding my bike up and down the street really fast. I was probably around 10, and I think I'm like a super fast bike rider. And all of a sudden I stop and I look to the sun, and the sun tells me that there's something more, there's something important. And I hung on to that. Even to this day, I remember that moment. But as a side note, and maybe I'll make a video about it in the future if you're interested, is that, I guess it alludes to my video yesterday, that when you make big movements, it activates the part of you that's ready to solve problems and awareness, particularly the right side of your brain. You are open to sensations and symbolism. So big movements create or help to solve problems. So you're feeling the call, and stage 2 is the resistance. So this is when you feel called to move in a certain direction, but it doesn't make sense to move in that direction. You're like logically explaining it in your mind that you can't quit your job, or you can't go traveling around the world, or whatever it is you feel called to do, or you don't have money to buy that technology that you need to do whatever it is you want to do. You feel called to do something, but there's all these logical reasons on why you can't do it. So as an example, for me, when I was 25 finishing university, it was really building in me that there was something more. And I was just kind of told by the people around me, like, this is what you do. You finish school, you get a job, you buy a house, you get married, you have kids. This is the plan. But I felt like something was missing and something was off, and this wasn't right. And I did find a job and get married and buy a house, and we had a baby. It was the 3rd at the time for me. And it was after I was on maternity leave with her that I realized I couldn't go back. I could not go back to this 9-to-5 lifestyle, working the crazy hours I was working in my career. Like, it just didn't make sense to me as someone who wanted to be a mother to work from 9 to 5, come home and really have very limited time with your children. Like, I wanted to be the one raising my children, and this life of working 9 to 5 and never seeing my kids did not make sense to me. So I knew something had to change, and I did return to work for about 5 months, I think. Yeah, I think maybe even 4. Wasn't very long when I resigned. And I didn't just resign for my career, I resigned for my career trajectory. I had to change things and find a new path, and I had no idea where I was going. And it was hard on my marriage, and it was an exciting and scary time for me. So I entered stage 3, seeking, and this is where people and resources and opportunities come into your life for you to experience who you are, what you like, what you don't like, and get to know yourself better. You're kind of entering the path of adventure of your quest. So for me, for example, I joined a bunch of different workshops, book clubs. I tried different exercises, particularly yoga and Pilates. I also tried a bunch of different therapies because I knew something was wrong with me. I was sitting in panic attacks most of the time. It was a challenge. So here I moved to stage 4, the point of no return. So I had been exploring who I am, and maybe you have as well. Let me know if you're in that phase. Exploring who you are, and you're kind of getting confidence, and you're feeling good about yourself. And then something happens where you know that is done. Like something else has to change. You're making another shift. So for me, I felt really good and confident, and I realized I had to end my marriage. I don't recommend that to everyone, but that was the path I chose at the time. And shortly after I left my marital home and my marriage, COVID happened. And this spun me wide open again. Things in the world were not making sense. I didn't understand what was happening. And I knew things would never go back to how they were. Relationships of mine were changing, as I think many of you can say you understand that as well. And there is a point of no return here. So then you move into stage 5, the confrontation between the hero and the guardian. So this is where you're going to face off a major battle where the guardian is really trying to point you in the right direction, and you might be kicking and screaming and not wanting to go in that direction. And it's more fine-tuned now than in the seeking phase. Like it's narrowed. Like for example, for me, I knew I needed to now create a living for myself. So I was searching for what was going to happen. And I had 2 other business and a nonprofit where I was creating, so I knew creativity was really good for me. And I also love psychology, and I happened to stumble across a book about art psychotherapy, and then a friend introduced me to a friend who was in an art psychotherapy program. I registered, I was accepted, I had an interview, I started school within like a couple months. It all happened so fast. But even leading up to it, to the first day of school, I was kicking and screaming because I didn't want to be a therapist, and it cost a lot of money, and I didn't want to put my money into this. And I just had lots of logical reasons. Well, those were the main 2, that I didn't want to be a therapist and it cost lots of money. So what was I going to do with this education? But yet I felt really called to go this way. So I was kind of kicking and screaming, but yet wanting to go at the same time. So I kind of describe it as, you know, my guardian angel pushed me through the metaphorical door, and I started school in the art psychotherapy diploma program. And then you move into stage 6. It's a beautiful place to a supreme ordeal. So I was in a beautiful place while I was in school. It was magnificent, learning about art psychotherapy and how it could heal you, and you didn't even realize it was healing you as you drew pictures and scribbled on papers and asked what the colors wanted to say to you. It all sounds so ridiculous, but all of a sudden I would find that I wasn't anxious, or certain people didn't trigger me anymore, and I could go and do things or not do things. My habits were changing, and it was just a magnificent time. I was walking around happy. I'm not saying there weren't things I had to work through, but it was a lot easier knowing I had the art in my back pocket. And it was also a way for me, as I developed it, to feel that this was a way for my unconscious or a higher power to communicate to me through the art and help me solve problems. So it was beautiful. But then school ended, and this is where my supreme ordeal, as Paul Rebello describes it, where I have to deal with some very core issues to move on. And this is where I believe I'm at now. I'm moving on from these core issues. As of my post on December 31st, where I talk about like, this was the worst year of my life, because I realized December 31st, it had been 12 months and I hadn't figured stuff out. And it was incredibly frustrating to me to know that so much time had passed and I knew what I had to do and I wasn't taking steps. I was kind of repulsed and frustrated by the idea of social media. And now I'm moving forward with it. I actually feel when I make these posts, whether anybody likes them or not, of course I hope people do, but it just feels like another creative expression now, especially after I've changed my business direction from UFTA therapies to Soulful Expressions. I'm just feeling such a united front with it, like we're connected. It's amazing. So I'm working through my supreme ordeals, and the next phase is stage 7, the reward. So this is what people sometimes call the treasure or the holy grail, or you're living your purpose. This is where you find meaning in who you are. So in this phase, I'm not there yet, but I do feel I have a very open mind and able to embrace many perspectives, and that is only supposed to enhance even further in stage 7. So I'm looking forward to that. So there's countless emotional journeys. I think if I could summarize the big things for me, if I had even known that a spiritual emergency was a diagnosis in the beginning of this, that would have been an amazing thing. I didn't find out about it until I was in stage 5, and already like 15 years, 13 years into this process. It was a long time for me. I hope most of you can go through it faster than I can, but I think if I'd known it was a thing, that the spiritual awakening wasn't just some word on the internet to put someone in a box, that it's actually a crisis, a mental health issue, and then to understand the phases so I could kind of track myself. And so when I was in those low times, I could use that as a guiding post to say like, okay, I'm here. This is what I have to work through. That would have been really beneficial. And also to have been prepared ahead of time that there's highs and lows. So when you hit those lows, you know this is part of it. You haven't done anything wrong. This is part of it. You know, the universe wants you to learn a lesson. Your psyche's trying to purge stuff out of you and make you aware of some things so you can figure it out. It helped from stage 5 on. When I've known about it, it has helped me to process and move things forward. So I guess that's my big message to you, that a spiritual awakening is a real thing. It's not just something people talk about on the internet to put you into some political class or to be in a group. It is a real thing that people move through. And in our culture, if you live in the West, it is ignored. Mental health professionals don't know about it. And I feel it really needs to be emphasized. I think people in their bios, mental health professionals, need to add that they're spiritually awakening trained in their bio, so people know they can come to them and they can say all kinds of crazy shit and not feel horrible or that they're going to be kicked out of the room. Because during COVID, I wanted to ask questions and it seemed like a time where questions were not allowed. And I didn't feel there was anywhere to go. So I want to put it out there that Soulful Expressions is a place for people to go. If you're having questions, drop me a line. I want to build a community. Post something in the comments and let's start talking about what stage you're in, what you're going through. This is a time where you're getting rid of trauma, you're getting rid of grief, you're getting rid of all sorts of thoughts and ideas and psychic issues that need to come up and out. You know, abandonment is another one that comes to mind. Addictions, lots of different things. So I hope this resonated with you. I hope I wasn't too rambly. Once again, the Soulful Expressions is a place for us to connect, and if I can help, please reach out. I want to help. I'm not a licensed art psychotherapist. I've chosen to not go that way, but I still want to be there as a resource, and I want to help. I want to build community. So I'd love to hear your story. I'd love to hear if you feel you're in a certain stage right now and how I can help you in the future. So best of luck. Take care until I see you again. Thank you.